Hey everyone, I'm your host Natalie Bodie. On the show today is one of the biggest names in the world of poker and content creation. From his explosive rise in online games to building a following through strategy vlogs and unforgettable moments at the table, he's become a force both on and off the felt. Please welcome the one and only Ethan, aka Rampage, to the show. I understand the legacy of the World Series of Poker main event. Obviously, that name carries weight. But do you think the reason it's also such a big deal is because it's potentially one of the softest fields that you can ever play for that buy-in?
Of course. Yeah. I was going to give the comparison of if you play a PokerGo 10K, my ROI is not this high. I don't even know if I have an ROI in a PokerGo 10K, but let's say the best pros are winning 10, 15%, and that's really good in that field. And the main people buy themselves more at 130% ROI or something like that just for fun. So it's 10x more profitable to play that than a PokerGo 10K.
There's so many people out there that I'm sure dream of playing the main event. They would love to play it, and they won't ever play it in their life. How would you describe to them what it's actually like to be there and to have a seat and get to participate?
I think the main event is obviously super special, and you can just feel it walking down the halls.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you can feel the legacy, the history, and the culture within our poker niche, and it's just a very special tournament. I remember my very first time walking in. I muscled up the $10,000, which was the biggest buy-in for me at that point.
What year was this, by the way? Your first one?
3 years ago.
Okay.
I played 3 years ago. I busted level day one, which was really sad. So that was the most depressed I've ever been too. But it's just everyone just cares so much more. There's no other tournament that you can win $10 million in and have everyone at your table also be equally as excited as you to play this same event. So everyone really tries their best. Everyone wants to win. That's the beauty of tournaments anyways, right? But obviously everyone just kind of wants to live that dream of making day two, bagging, and everyone just wants to bag day two, right? Just to report back home and say that they accomplished something. Bagging day two is an accomplishment for all poker players that play the main, because it's a marathon. You want to survive and advance to the next. And this is year 4 or 5 of me playing, and year 4 of me playing, and I would still consider it an achievement to bag for day two, and each bag after that is just a success.
Do you remember what that first table was like at the main event that initial year for yourself? The type of people that you sit with?
Yeah, it's a lot of people, especially when you play early day one. Everyone wants to get the full experience, so you get some pretty different table draws.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have a lot more recreationals, a lot more first timers, people just super excited, and some people that also just haven't even played a tournament before. Some people play I remember back home, what was super fun when I was playing 1-2 at the time, there were some local casinos hosting main event satellites. So you buy in for $200, $500 or something like that, and one winner would get the $10,000 seat. So people would just play these local $160 daily tournaments to prep for this main event. And that's kind of their experience of tournament poker, is playing these dailies, and then you just go to the big leagues and play this insane tournament.
I'm sure your first one, there was probably a moment there where you thought about this is something I've wanted to do. I'm finally achieving it. When did you really start to get into poker and think about, pursuing it at any level?
I got into poker when I was 20 years old. A buddy of mine, my first time ever playing was an 18-plus casino. I sat down and played 1-2 as a college student, and I lost a lot of my net worth, which was $500 at the time, in 30 minutes. I immediately had I was just done. We drove an hour and a half, I remember, to this casino.
Which casino?
Twin River. I'm banned from it now, which is funny.
Okay, we'll ask about that next. Go on.
But I'm banned from this casino, but we drove an hour and a half from my school to Rhode Island, and I played for about 30 minutes. And then after this hour and a half drive, my buddy was actually a poker player at the time. He was playing 2-5. I busted my bankroll. I went up to him and said, "Hey, I'm ready to leave now," which now seems insane because obviously people sit and play poker for hours on end.
Mm-hmm.
And I was done in 30 minutes. So that was my first introduction into poker. And then after that, I kind of was more interested in the game of it. So I looked at things up on YouTube, watched some vlogs, realized there was maybe an opportunity in the YouTube space. So I vlogged my 3rd or 4th ever session playing poker, and then that kind of got hand in hand. The more traction I got from the videos, the more I played poker, and just kind of grew from there over the past couple of years.
So you really kind of started from almost day one with your YouTube audience.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, the first video is pretty cringe.
I got to go back and find that. No, I think it's really cool, though, that, you know, you go from playing your first poker game to then wanting to look into it more and then obviously creating content about it. How did you go through whatever you bought in for that quickly? Did you just, like, go all in? Like, what happened that first session?
How did I lose my 500?
Did you know how to play? Like, did you know the chart of, like, what beats what?
No, my friend was on the drive there. My friend was telling me how the button moved and that you should tip the dealer like $1 every time you win a hand, like learning the etiquettes of the game. So no, I knew nothing. Obviously, that's why I lost my money, because I had no idea how to play and I had no beginner's luck at the time.
So when you sat down, they were just thrilled to see you because you were just
They were
there
thrilled.
Firing.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I remember the first time I peeled aces. My heart was pumping, and I did the thing where like everyone folded because I probably raised too big, and I had all the tells in the world, and then I slammed the aces down on the table.
You showed. Wow.
I showed. I was like,
love that.
haha, guys, got you good.
I love that.
I'll take my $5 and go home.
I'm sure you extracted max value from that hand there.
Yep.
How'd you get banned? What happened?
I did. So this was in 2019, right before COVID. I was playing 1-3 at the time, and I did this bankroll challenge because I realized after I graduated college, I kept playing poker, and I realized I was winning and making these videos, but I still had no money. I didn't know why when I was still winning at 1-3. So I did a bankroll challenge from 0 to win $10,000. And once I hit this $10,000 mark, I was going to shot take and play 5-10. And the closest 5-10 game there was at this place, Twin River. And so I just went from 1-3, and I shot took 5-10. I lost $2,000, which was 20% of my net worth, basically, once again in like an hour or two. So I made this video about it, and I was vlogging it the whole time. I didn't have permission to vlog. And then at the end of the video, I'm super tilted, and then I called the casino a shithole, which I stand by 100%, still to this day. But so I called it a shithole, and then I was vlogging and I wasn't able to or had permission to, and then a couple weeks later I got a letter in the mail saying I got banned.
And that was it. That was all she wrote. Wow.
So that probably saved me money, so I didn't have to go back there at least.
They didn't appreciate the publicity to some degree?
No, I don't know why they wouldn't. Yeah.
Okay.
Any publicity is good publicity.
That's what I've been told as well. So what point did it go from vlogging for fun to you thinking, oh, I can actually make a career out of this?
This was immediate. So
Wow.
I've tried and failed YouTube channels ever since I was 12, and poker was always like, I don't know, I just enjoyed making videos, and I've always wanted to turn it into a career. So every little niche or hobby or video game I tried to make videos about was always hoping for one day it would like turn into some sort of sustainable career. So I got more into poker after I graduated college, and I declined like this full-time offer I had at the time to work in some finance role. And then I was just crunching the numbers of how much can I make to sustain myself. I remember I still have this bulletin board in my my childhood bedroom, like my subsistence level, and I need to make like $1,500 a month to break even on life. And I was making $2,000 a month on poker at the time, $1,000 on YouTube, and that was enough. So I just kept going along with it.
So you actually were trying to do YouTube since you were 12. I don't think I realized that or ever heard you talk about that. You were just trying to see what would work? Like you had other channels before the poker channel?
Yeah, I got really into Call of Duty, which is where the name Rampage came from.
Okay.
I was joining some clan, and we did like trick shots and montages and stuff like that. And I just tried with Call of Duty. I did some commentaries, like gameplay commentaries, and nothing ever good comes out of a 12-year-old's mouth when you just have a microphone in front of them and like no filter whatsoever. So those videos didn't blow up for good reasons, probably.
Are those videos still up? Did you take them down?
Those are still up.
They're still up on your channel or the other channel?
There are other channels.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't disclose what they're called, but if someone finds them, they'll have a good time.
Have people found them?
No, because it's a name that I don't think anyone will be able to recognize.
I'm
kind
of surprised you haven't taken them down. You just want to let them live on there? Are you locked out? What happened?
I've tried to take them down.
Okay. That makes sense.
I can't find the email or whatever that's a part of that channel. But yeah, if it were up to me, I would like them down.
No, that makes sense. It's probably like an old childhood email. Like Ethan Call of Duty 88
Maybe.
Sparkle or like
Sparkle,
something. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's what people did with the emails back in the day. You didn't have an embarrassing email?
I still use my first email, so I don't know how I can't find this channel. But
Okay.
yeah, my
Interesting.
first email is baseball.ethan.
See, that's what everybody does. And you use that one to this day.
I have it for spam and stuff. but yeah,
No,
it
somebody
exists on
out
my
there
phone.
needs to find it though. I wanna see your commentary.
They can find it. Yes, it's for sure there. I have a friend that works at Google, and we looked at all of the emails that's ever been associated with my phone number.
Oh my gosh.
We can't find the login, so it's just gonna be up there forever
Yeah, it's
until
staying
YouTube
up.
wants to take it down.
Sounds about right. So you decided, all right, I only need a couple $1,000s to maintain my life. Even though I have a college degree, I'm going to pursue this full time. Was there a point or amount of money that you made that you thought like, wow, I actually can out earn my degree by having this hobby and making content?
I saw the potential in it for a while, and it probably wasn't until COVID when I banked my first ever WSOP event. So
What'd you make in that one?
$165,000
So at
from
that
a $500
point,
buy-in.
$500
So
to make
this-
that amount?
Yeah, we were talking about how like tournaments were like, wow, imagine if you just enter a tournament, bank big, and just walk away forever. This is what no one ever does in poker. This is how
ideal
everyone stays in
scenario.
poker and in the tournament life, is because you find like early success and you see like an unfathomable amount of money just like get wired to your account in one go. And now you think this is just what life is like. Then now we just pursue it for forever.
So when the 165,000 hit your account, was that a huge number to you then as well, or had you made enough from content to where you were kind of like, okay?
It was a big number. Yeah. It was a nice number. I was playing maybe 2-5 and maybe shot taking 5-10 at the time. So I didn't have that much money. And I remember I also never played tournaments. So I like drove during COVID from Massachusetts to New Jersey to play online and just stream. Like I cherry picked a weekend where they were all like the smallest events. So some 500s, 600s, stuff like that. And then I got lucky in the first one I played, which was insane.
That's crazy. So what'd you do with the money? I mean, that's $1 million question. You buy something, do you go straight to the bankroll? You had to have had a fun purchase at some point.
I just shot took, then I just started playing bigger. Yeah, that was really it. Yeah.
So after that, then obviously you decided you were playing what, 2-5 at the time?
Yeah, something like that.
So you went up to 5-10 or?
I kind of skipped this whole 5-10 buy-in because
Okay.
of this, I think. When I look back on it, I remember I tried, like I wanted to prove myself at 1-3, establish a win rate, prove myself at 2-5, and then I would shot take 5-10 sometimes, and then this score happened, and YouTube was getting better. Obviously, when you win a bracelet, like it's a lot of publicity on the YouTube channel, and I started getting more looks from within the poker community and outside the poker community. So that's when things kind of turned around, which was nice. So then I started play on streams, go to Texas, play some 1025, shot take all of these from 1025, 2550, 100, 200, all the stakes up there.
The high stakes poker community is a pretty tight knit group. It seems like it's that core group of people who win all the time. What was your perception of that group before you were really introduced to it?
I didn't know anything about it. I was kind of in my own little content bubble because I was just watching vlogs, and like my community was the YouTube community really, because I was always staying in my own lane for the most part. Every time I played poker, and my only content I ever consumed was like Brad Owen, Andrew Nemi, Vibes, and all of them. So yeah, I didn't really know anything about it. I remember my first ever like big tournament trip was to Florida, and I noticed that there were a lot of like poker groups and cliques and stuff, and I just kind of was on my own lonesome, just like hanging out by myself, vlogging with the camera and whatever, and did my own thing. So in the beginning, I never really had a good understanding of what the community was like, but then, you know, as I moved to Vegas, met some friends, built the poker community around me, which is nice. I'm a big fan of this little community, and everyone's super nice. So
What do you think the biggest misconception is about the poker lifestyle?
I guess like within tournaments, like everyone just thinks everyone's rich because you bank these scores. And I don't think my friend would be upset with me saying this. Like Steven Song, great poker player, super accomplished. He just won $715,000 or something in Asia, winning this $15,000 buy-in main event, and everyone was just like, "Wow, you are so rich," because he just won like the Barcelona main event, and then a couple months later he wins this huge score, and there's a lot of time in between, in between these two scores, and no one sees all of the bust outs and entries and re-entries, so that all kind of adds up. But that's probably the biggest misconception for tournament poker, is that there's a lot of buy-ins and bust outs that no one really gets to see.
It's definitely swingy in that regard. How do you deal with that aspect of poker? Because the ups and downs can just be brutal.
Yeah, it's not fun, especially in tournaments. Cash games, same way, to maybe a lesser degree, I think. But yeah, I mean, every time you step into a casino, and like this summer, I'm going to play all of the tournaments that exist on the Strip, I'm just expecting to lose money, right? That's kind of the expectation, is that like 80-90% of the time, you're going to show up to the casino and you're going to lose money, and maybe like 0.5% of the time, you just might walk away with like $1 million, which is really cool. So that's kind of how I deal with it. Yesterday, I had a really brutal one where I was 15th in an online tournament, and then I was also in the money of like this $1,500 buy-in at WSOP, and I busted both of them within like 5 minutes of each other. I had like so much opportunity both ways. I was feeling great. Everything was fantastic, and then I just like die, and then it's just sadness, and it's a long drive home, and that's kind of what you deal with.
We were discussing this earlier off camera, and I really think it's one of the parts of poker that people don't really think about as much. And it's the fact that when you're having success, it can be great. But when you're losing, you obviously have to deal with that too. And the lifestyle has those ridiculous ups and downs. When it comes to tournaments, how do you manage, all right, I'm expecting to lose, but this is my income. So am I going to get staked? Am I going to balance my bankroll a different way? What are some of the details of that you think people don't really know about?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to like finance poker, which I think is cool. I think as the game matures and the player pool matures, people are getting smarter and understanding variance and how things work. I think back in the old days, everyone would just be super willy-nilly and just fire like 50% of their net worth in one single tournament, not understanding how insane that is, because you just lose 90% of the time. But now, fast forward to present day, I'm not someone who gets creative with the financing aspect, but I've heard of really creative solutions, whether it's like staking and selling at markup and swapping and all of these things within a community where you can have a collective pool of money that's thrown into this tournament, and then you have like pieces everywhere. Like in the main event, a lot of people will swap out, essentially. Let's say we're both playing the main event, and because we both have $10,000 in equity, we can swap like 1 to 5% or something, and then that decreases or spreads out the risk at least.
Mm-hmm.
So me personally, I don't do any of this for the most part.
You take all the losses.
I like having all of it and feel all the wins and all the losses in the same regard. So that's how I've always done with it. In terms of like the risk, I've always been super risk on. When I first started playing 1-3, I had $3,000 to my name, and I was buying in for $500.
Wow,
so I was ready to go busto for sure, but I got super lucky for the first like 4 years of my poker career, and that's kind of sustained me to where I am now, which is quite nice. So I've always just been all in.
I'm sure that's not a strategy that you would recommend to others, but it seems to have worked for you up to this point.
For now, yeah. There's been a lot of like ups and downs for sure. Like the wins feel really good and the losses feel really bad, and that's kind of what I've signed up for.
Speaking of wins, though, your biggest career cash, I think it was that WPT title, right? 2022, almost $900K.
Yeah, that was nice.
You had 100% of yourself in that one as well?
Correct.
So when you won, like, wow, I'm basically getting, let's just round it up, $1 million, and this is 100% me.
Mm-hmm. That was cool.
In that moment, did it all sink in? Were you still like fresh off the grind of the cards? Or right away were you like, oh my gosh, I just won $900K?
I don't think I've ever had that feeling. Like personally, I've, over the past couple of years, because this was in 2023, now we're in 2025, I think. No, that was in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Yeah, so now like 3 years later, 2.5 years later, I've gotten more perspective over that experience. But back then, I was on just a heater, just like a life heater, where I was expecting to win everything. And I kind of took the whole experience for granted, because as I rose up in poker, everything was just kept getting bigger and bigger, and the wins kept getting bigger, and all the buy-ins were getting bigger, and everything was working out great. So I just kind of expected to win, or maybe just wasn't as grateful for the opportunities back then. But obviously when I got like the chips in my hand and the money in my account, like that was an outrageous number to have. So that was once again like insane, like another like huge milestone that I've reached, just having like the $1 million for sure mark like in my checking account for no reason because I just transfer all the win chips to my bank. But as I've lost over the past like 18 months or so, I've gained a lot of perspective in trying to appreciate like the big moments, small moments, and just appreciate small wins. Like 3 days ago, I won $5,000 in a pretty big cash game. We were playing 100, 200. So $5,000 is relatively a small win. And I was ecstatic about it because that was my first win in a while. And I was really grateful for it.
Good to see one go through
Yeah,
every now and then.
It was nice. I needed that.
To your point earlier, though, about there being a misconception when you have big scores of people thinking you're rich, or, you know, you feel rich in that moment when you have that score. I mean, it's on Hidden Mob, you made almost $3 million. You've never felt rich from poker? You had to have a moment when you got the 900K. There was probably a moment where you're like, all right, this is sick.
Of course. Yeah,
Okay,
that's insane.
okay.
Yeah. But, I mean, for full transparency, like on my YouTube, I show all my wins and losses. That 900K score got me out of a 200,000 tournament hole I was in prior to that year. So I was winning in cash games, but tournaments are super swingy. And then when you buy into 25Ks and $10,000 buy-ins, you can lose $200,000 very, very quickly. So I was down about 200, and then I just won that. So maybe I was down more. I was maybe down like 300 at the time, and then I won the 900, let's say, roundup, and then I profited 600,000 in tournament earnings that year.
So when it comes to these big tournaments, what's really your drive? Because we've discussed how the lifestyle can be brutal. Obviously, because you have YouTube, I feel like that lane and the content lane sort of helps you with some of the losses or the downswings because you still have not only that revenue, but that community. What drives you to continue to compete in them?
I fell in love with tournaments because of like the sense of competition. I didn't feel this competition in cash games for no real particular reason. Maybe because there's no like just official ranking and there's no first place. Like when I stopped playing sports in high school, I was just yearning for some form of competitive environment. And that's why I fell in love with poker in the beginning, was because you compete and it's for like real life monetary gain. And that was the combination of the two was something that I've never experienced before. And then when you combine that in the tournament field where you do get a trophy and you do get like all these accolades and can collect things and have the publicity of the winner's photo and people really caring and celebrating your wins, all of that makes me like fall in love with tournament poker and makes the grind worth it for me to try to show up every single day.
That top 1% of players that I feel like we always see win the big events, what do you think they all have in common? Like, what do you see from all of them that you think that this is one thing that each of them do that separate them?
I think they're all unbelievably disciplined in poker and in life, in all aspects of life. I think you just need to be super disciplined and have the utmost confidence in yourself and your decision making, for sure.
Do you have one player now that you look up to and want to emulate?
Jason Kuhn is probably one of the top ones for sure. Yeah, he just shows up. He's a killer. He knows what he's doing and just shows up as prepared as he possibly can be, like every single day.
I feel like you do a good job, though, of having fun with poker, too, because when it gets to that highest level, it's very serious. We were saying that it feels a lot more like a competition and there's not a fun element, but you play some cash games and stuff, too. Do you have one most memorable stream that you've participated in?
Memorable stream. I guess it would have to be the $1 million game that I played in.
Yes.
I guess because I bluffed off $1 million and successfully bluffed off $1 million. So that has to be up there.
Can you just take me through that? Just recap it for me and just let me live through it one more time.
Sure.
Because I remember seeing that.
Okay. To give context, like Hustler hosted their first ever $1 million game. They've hosted 3 of them now, but for their first year, everyone buys in for $1 million, and the stakes are $500, $1,000 with a $1,000 ante. So we're playing pretty deep stacked, and at that point, I was able to sell about 75% of action. So I had 25% of myself. So out of the $1 million, 250 was mine. 750,000 were other people's, and I had immense pressure on not losing all of my friends' money, because this is a lot of money that's not mine and I'm responsible for. Like, I'm the driver's seat of this plane, and I'm in control whether this plane flies or crashes. So I get into this spot where I have ace 8 offsuit, and on a queen jack 10 board, I decided to check raise out of position, and then the other opponent, we were three-handed, hands, another opponent calls with top set of queens. Turn brings me a flush draw. I decide to overbet like 250,000 or something, or maybe 150,000.
Insane to even hear that.
Yeah, and then he calls with top set, obviously. The river completely bricks out, and I'm just representing a straight like ace king, because I didn't think my opponent could have ace king, so I just go all in for 600,000, and my opponent goes into like a minute-long decision and tank, and he lets his cards go. And that was great. And then the best thing is that I'm never one to show any bluffs.
Mm-hmm.
But then Nick Airball across the table always loves goading me, and he's like, "Show the bluff." And I'm like, "Fine, if you're gonna like ego challenge me to show the bluff, I will show the bluff." And then I slam it
What a feeling.
on the table. That was good.
Playing for that high stakes, does it get your heart rate up still?
A little bit, yeah. When it matters a lot like that in that situation, it does. That was a good moment. I mean, I remember like thinking, how do I even like conceptualize playing in this game? And I just thought, let's just play it like a tournament, because they're just chips, and we just added a few extra zeros with some of these numbers. And I'm familiar with like playing with 600,000 tournament chips, because when you make a final table, you get a lot of chips. That's how I saw it.
It's a good way to try to manage it mentally.
Yeah, they weren't real dollars. You don't
yeah.
convert them into real houses or anything.
Can't think of it like money at that point. How do you feel like your mindset has changed from when you first got into poker to now? Because realizing when you started, you kind of grew up with it in some ways. Like it's at a pivotal point where after college, I think a lot of people are maturing, and that's really right when you kind of started this journey.
Yeah, I've done a lot of growth, like I said, over the past like 18 months, I think personally, with how I view finances, life, poker, variance, all of these things. You really don't gain much perspective when you win, because you just think you're the best and you're a god, because all you do is show up and you just win hundreds of thousands of dollars every time. But then when you lose, you kind of get more humbled and understand like what's going on. And I think over the past like 18 months, I've just learned to be more grateful and show more gratitude towards like the opportunities I have. Especially this summer specifically, there's a lot of people that think, or their dreams are to play the WSOP and just grind tournaments. Like this is their dream, and I get to live it. And like the past couple summers, I've done a lot of complaining, I guess, with losing and bad beats and like being unlucky and all of these things. And it's just all noise and things I should probably let go of, with all these like negative emotions for the most part, at least not like display them super publicly. So like yesterday, I was as upset and sad as I could be, but still having like this thought in the back of my mind, like, this is still an insane opportunity to have a chance to win hundreds of thousands of dollars and play a game that I love and compete and all of these things. So finding more gratitude.
As you've matured and evolved, have you seen the same thing with your content, or really has the same things worked from day one that work now on YouTube and other channels?
People love and will always love watching high stakes, so that's probably what will perform the best. But I'm doing this different thing, trying to invest in different forms of content, spending my time with more brainstorming, storylines, and challenge videos and stuff like that to kind of maybe grow to a different audience. So trying new things.
Do you see poker being forever for you, or do you think about times where maybe you'd want to step away? I'm sure it's easy when the downswings hit to think about like, what else is there besides poker? But do you ever really consider that?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot, and when I compare my passion for the game with my peers who are very, very good, I just know that my level isn't nearly as high. I think content will always be forever for me, because that's just something that's always going to be stimulating and challenging. And then poker can be forever to a varying degree, maybe not as the grind as it is right now, where I'm playing every single day this summer, versus just having it there whenever I get an itch to want to play cards. Or I think like poker is a great community gathering activity. So down the line, I'm sure I'd happily like hop into a game with friends and just use that as an avenue to meet new people or reconnect. But definitely not a forever thing for me to like grind this hard.
Your path, though, is super cool because to me, I mean, in a relatively short time, you went from starting to play poker to winning over $1 million playing poker. Why do you think that was possible for you?
I don't. I've thought about this actually. It's interesting. I've thought about this over the past like 3 days ago maybe. I was giving myself credit for at least some of the success I had early on because I don't do this very often ever. I've never done it. And then obviously my brand is all about how much I punt and how bad I am at poker and how much I hate money and all of these things, like self-deprecating things. But I finally gave myself some credit thinking that I don't know how, but yeah, like I've had some success early on and I was able to rise through the stakes in a relatively short time period and find success during this journey. So I guess I just like believed in myself like wholeheartedly, for better or worse, and have like this delusion thinking that I could be successful in this genre or this arena that I had no idea really about, because the more I learn about poker, the less I know really. And it's really humbling whenever I learn more about poker and just like understanding these situations that I completely have a complete lack of understanding in whether it was the $1 million bluff hand that I don't think I played that hand very well, and it just ended up working out through sheer of luck, and he didn't want to call with top set. But yeah, I think it's just a little bit of delusion for sure, and willingness to bet on myself and put it all on the line just to try to be successful in some way.
Is there anything you would change if you could about the start of your journey to this point?
I don't think I would. I'm happy with how things are going, and for better or worse, losing a lot of money over the past 18 months is part of the journey, and as a result of that comes with a lot of like personal and professional growth. So I can't really change anything in the past.
If there was a reg out there who wanted, they said, hey, Ethan, I really want to get into playing tournaments, World Series of Poker is a dream. What's the formula for that? What is it in your mind to go from a reg to someone who can compete in high stakes tournaments?
I would spend a lot of time getting better at the game. There's a lot of resources, both free and paid for, that can just exponentially improve your poker game. I think that's number one for sure. And then find a community that you can just talk about hands with or talk about lifestyle stuff with. Like, it's nice that I have a friend group and group chat where we're all grinding in the summer, and there's a lot of negativity and bad, but at least it's kind of warming to know that you're not going through this lonely, sad, grueling grind this summer alone, because everyone's going to have these like negative days, frustrating days, play for 8 hours and then you just lose a couple $1,000 and it feels like a waste of time, and that's just par for the course.
We appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.